Great. So we're just waiting for Dr. Ashraf, but I want to thank everybody for joining. We had 2,077 people register, so it's actually the biggest event we've ever done as a company. So thanks to all of you for joining. And the reason why we created the Board Leadership Forum was we found that when we went to a lot of the board or existing board events, there was quite a focus on compliance and risk, which is, of course, very important. But we also wanted to talk about profitability and revenue growth, value creation. And that's where we created the Board Leadership Forum, which is really focused on boards and profitability, which, of course, is tied to your compliance, because having good corporate governance obviously helps create a sustainable organization and fuels your profitability. But we also want to talk about what are some of those other levers: vision, strategy, execution, that the seasoned board members will pull on. And I guess as the Phillips Group, if you're not familiar with us, we're an executive search firm founded in 1984 by my late father. And we specialize in placing board members, CEOs, and senior executives in companies. And I think one of the things that we found when we worked with organizations that had, that hockey curve that we all aspire to, when you see that high double-digit or sometimes even triple-digit revenue growth, is that there's certain behaviors, certain tactics, certain tangible things that those boards were doing to drive that growth. And when we found we were working with companies where they might have lackluster results, or they might be in contraction, that there's certain behaviors that those board members are also exhibiting. So we said, okay, well, let's create a forum and start talking about what are the things that we should be doing. So great. Do we have Ashraf, Dr. Ashraf here?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
He is here. Okay. He was here all the time. It's just under. There you are. Okay, great. So with no further ado, let us get started. Welcome to the Board Leadership Forum event we do every quarter, and where we want to talk about driving results. And my co-host for this session is a gentleman which many of you will know. He's a well-known personality here across the GCC, and has been a denizen of the region for many, many years, is Dr. Ashraf Gamal. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Hawkamah, the Institute for Corporate Governance and the gold standard for corporate governance training here in the United Arab Emirates. He's a fellow and certified corporate governance expert and chartered governance from the Chartered Governance Institute in the UK. And prior to joining Hawkamah, he was the executive chairman of Egypt Post, and before that, he was the deputy executive director of the Egyptian Banking Institute. He's also the founder and previously was the project manager of the Egyptian Corporate Responsibility Center, working on promoting the concepts and application of social responsibility in Egypt. He's also previously been the executive director of the Egyptian Institute of Directors and the Institute of Corporate Governance in Egypt and the Arab region. Dr. Ashraf has also served as a board member and head of the audit committee in several listed and non-listed state-owned and family-owned companies, such as Egyptian Resorts Company, Salhad Hashish, Egypt Reinsurance, Mizr Life Insurance, Suez Canal for Technology, Thebes International, Mr. Quinis Cement, just to name a few. He's also served as a member of the General Assembly of the Holding Company for Transportation. He's also previously an advisor to the Minister of Investment in Egypt. He's also been a professor of management at the Faculty of Commerce in Cairo University. He holds a PhD from Manchester University and a master's degree in public administration from Carleton University in my hometown, Ottawa, Canada. Please welcome Dr. Ashraf Gamal.
Thank you so much, Shane, for this introduction. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is going to be a very exciting and engaging session. It's really my pleasure to team up with the Phillips Group in this, and really we are long-term partners, and hopefully you will see more and more events coming in the future, different types of events in the future. So thank you, Shane, for this, and please back to you, and let's start the session.
Yes, and now for our guest speaker of honor, a man who's really a legend across the region, and someone who has not only contributed to the business community, but also to the society and community as a whole, and someone who has one of those outstanding reputations that everybody likes to work for and or work with. It's really my pleasure to introduce His Excellency Essa Al Ghurair, who is the chairman of Essa Al Ghurair Investments. He's also the chairman of Awqaf and Miners Affairs Foundation. He's chairman and board member of Bin Laden Contracting Group. He's chairman of Tharawat Family Business Forum. He's a board member of Canada UAE Business Council. He's a board member of the first Mills Company in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And his vision and strategies have resulted in the growth of various companies, from Dubai Oil Mills, one of the largest canola and soya crushing plants in the MENA region, National Flour Mills, and Al Ghurair Resources, which are the largest business entities in the greater Al Ghurair family, and a major supplier in the field of agricultural commodities. He also serves as a general manager of Karam Foods Industries, which makes the best coffee that you've ever tasted. In addition, Mr. Essa Al Ghurair is a major shareholder in Prime Healthcare Group, one of the leading healthcare providers in the UAE. So it's really an honor to have Mr. Al Ghurair with us today. So please welcome, Your Excellency. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yes, Shane, pleasure to be with you, with your team that it's there to put together this important subject that it is there. And I'm happy to be part with you to engage in our experience, our history, so people can learn from each other, and I could learn also some other new things from you.
Well, thank you. So I guess everybody would aspire to, reach the heights that you've reached, to be chairman of so many companies. Maybe you can start with your journey that kind of took you from where you started to now being one of the kind of pillars of the business community of one of the hottest economies in the world, the Dubai UAE business, which continues to make waves around the world. Maybe that would be we'd love to hear it, I guess.
Okay, actually it started when I finished my school in San Diego State University in California in the 82s. And at that time I was contemplating to stay back in the US or to go back home. But I think I took a right decision, is to come back home, because family business, I am the third generation of family business. So I said I could have a legacy working back in the country, where at that time we used to go to the telephone to pay our bills for the telephones. Now everything is electronically done. So we have witnessed the transformation of the Emirates, the UAE, the Emirates of Dubai, to what it is now. And what all has been done through hard work and building one block at a time to build what it is now, the Emirates.
Okay. Yeah, definitely a different time where you used to physically go in and pay. People forget those times, and now I guess we complain when the app doesn't work immediately.
Yeah, Mr. Essa, I just wonder. I mean, of course, it's Al Ghurair is one of the biggest families in the region, and the name is just really massive. Can you just tell us about the idea of family governance, and you are a third generation as well, and this is usually generation where you start to have challenges. I mean, does the family have any system in place in which you are using so that you can move smoothly between generations? How did this happen, so that people can learn from your experience in that one?
I think he may be frozen. It seems like maybe he exited and re-entered. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So,
because actually this is one of the biggest things which we are suffering from in the region, is the idea of the family governance. So Mr. Essa, welcome back.
yes, is the family governance. And then I think probably a lot of people want to become a chairman. What should they start doing if they want to become a board member? No, Issa's back. Here he is.
I'm back.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
So
Sorry
you were just telling us how you paid your phone bills and then it froze.
Yes. And now it is, it is done all electronically. So I made the right choice to come back again to the country and witness the transformation that it's going through. And I would like to say one time is I met Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, and he was telling us, what you are seeing, it's only 10% of what my vision is. And I thought we have already reached the top of the whole things, but no, we are still climbing, on a climbing mode.
Yeah, mashallah, with the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, I mean, really the sky is the limit. I mean, I think I agree with His Excellency that we are just starting to see what can be done in this part of the world. So, Mr. Essa, I was just asking you about, because you said that you are a third generation in your family business. So can you tell us about whether the family has a system in which you transition between different generations? Because this is, in this part of the world, one of the key challenges, which is how to move successfully between generations so that the business can flourish and grow without having any setbacks. Is there any specific formula in your experience you can share with us?
I think good governance to be there is very important, because it gives the limit of everybody who is going to be part of the family business. What is their duties, what is their responsibilities, and how to go forward. And if they would like to be part of the family business, or no, I would like to step out of the family business and then do something else while enjoying maybe the family business revenue. So the most critical thing is for in the family business is governance, which Hawkamah in Arabic,
Yes, I'm the CEO of Hawkamah, Your Excellency, Well, we are very happy to know that. Again, a lot of the people who are here, who joined us, they aspire to become maybe board members. What is it that they have to do? I mean, how can somebody be a successful board member in your own experience and knowledge?
I think one key word, because I don't like to say too many things, but honesty, and say what you have to say. From experience, from whatever you have to be honest of the subject that you're talking about and tell the truth. Maybe sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's detrimental for the organization that you are going into the wrong direction, but I think honesty is the most fundamental things that I think, in my opinion, is to be a successful director is honesty.
What is the way to become? I mean, because a lot of people ask us, okay, now we take courses, we understand governance and everything. How can we actually become board members, especially, females, because, there's a trend in trying to increase the number of women directors and women board members. How can they become board members? What can they do?
Well, I mean, you have to work hard to create the reputation that you can be a good board member by, showing yourself that you can contribute to the betterness of the organization. If you are just a board member for the sake of board member, I think it is damaging more than benefiting. It's very important to, as a board member, is to study the company. We're freeze again. Salman?
No, you're not frozen.
Okay.
Oh, he
Shane,
did.
so it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm
I
back
think
again.
he'll probably just rejoin. I don't know why that
Okay.
Yeah.
why it is.
Yes. I'm
So
okay.
you're going to say, Dr. Ashraf?
Yes, Mr. Essa is back and we can hear him and see him. He's not frozen now anymore.
Okay.
No, I was saying is that the director that he would like to be part of that organization, he must get to know the organization very well, and will he contribute to the organization or not? And that is very critical. And if he is not, it's better to say that I am not fit for this organization, and this is where honesty comes.
Okay, I see. Shane,
You
back
talked
to you.
about, sorry, Dr. Your Excellency, when we spoke, I mean, one thing that also set out, which I think people miss out, is the hard work, right? I mean, you talked about working till 11 p.m. at night, and you know, the effect or the sacrifice that also held on your family. I mean, what role does the work ethic and what kind of hours and commitment were you putting in the early days while you were building these businesses?
No doubt, because at that time I was young. I was, trying to learn as much as I can from the business and how to grow it up, and that required a lot of time to spend. I mentioned to you the last time when I was traveling so much that when I came home one time and my son was calling me uncle, I felt a little bit more. Well, I've been a little bit long time outside the country, so it's time to give some time to the family also. But it's very important is to give not the 8 hours that you think that you should work. If you want to be successful, you have to work hard.
So 11 hours. So when you look back, what are your biggest learnings, I guess, because you're one of the few guys that's actually, build businesses from scratch. When you look mostly at the Middle East, a lot of family groups prefer the franchise model, or, we call it the copy paste economy, where you go to different countries and then bring those businesses, which I'm sure in some instances you have done. But a lot of the companies, like Karam, for example, you built the largest coffee roastery in the Middle East from scratch, create your own brands. What are some of your learnings there, going from ground zero, building a brand, building a business up to profitability?
You see, my family started a business which is, as I mentioned, I was the third generation, and when we took a bold decision of building the first shopping center not only in the Middle East, but also in the Middle East, not the Gulf also. That was a very bold decision, is to go for the first time. And believe me, it was not an easy, but now everywhere there is a shopping center. Similarly, that is from my father time. When we came in, we started in the grain business. I mean, we built the first largest crushing plant in the whole Middle East. It's about 4,000 tons per day of soya. And I remember going one time with my father to Argentina, and when we saw the factories there, we were looking at 2,000 tons. He said, "No, I want 4,000 tons." I said, "It's going to be much bigger than what's the market size around us." He said, "The world is your market." Here where I learned that if you produce something, the world is your market. It's not just a building in Sheikh Zayed Road will be the building in Sheikh Zayed Road, but a factory that it is here. And to tell you frankly, we are exporting now from Dubai to China. Not only the Chinese are exporting to us, we are also exporting canola oil from Canada. We are bringing from your country to Dubai, crushing it here and sending it to China, and the meal also. So the thing is that think big, don't think small. Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. So Sheikh Mohammed with Muhammad Al-Abbar, they dreamt of doing something unique for the whole city. And that is Burj Khalifa has come. So never think that building anything should be small, test it and all these things, but think the world is your market.
What was the first, which mall was the first mall in the Middle East?
Al Ghurair Center.
Al Ghurair Center was the first mall in the Middle East. Wow.
Yes, 1978 was established, started.
In Dera.
There, yes.
Yeah. Actually, one of the participants, she's asking an interesting question. She's saying that are you and the companies, are you trying to create gender diversity in your boards? Are you trying to encourage women? Do they actually make a difference when they join boards of directors, or you feel whether it's a man or a woman, it's the same thing? What's your experience on that aspect of gender diversity on boards?
It's very important. I'm not saying, no, it's not important. It is very important. You see, a coin has a two side of the coin. If we just only looking at it from male side, then we'll have only one side of the coin. We know it's good to see the other side of the coin also, to understand the whole ecosystem of the whole thing. And this is what, but my request for the ladies is that they should add value. That is very important. It's not just only that you are a board member, that it is, you are now obliged to be having a board member, and then you bring any board member just for the sake of that will backfire, not on the organization, but also for the female, that we added, but it's not useful. So see what you can add as a value add.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I think now, unfortunately, well, not fortunate or unfortunately, but I guess I'm digging a hole for myself. But I was going to say there's more than two sides of the coin these days for some of the other regions in the world. Yeah, very interesting on the diversity piece. What about, one of your strategies is taking that risk of being the first mover. Is that something you feel is a business advantage in the strategies that you've done? Or is it better to kind of come in, the second, like in the race, when the guy who's behind the first person, there's advantages as well to not being the first mover, right?
Yeah, but you catch the first, you get the benefit of being the first. So like I said, the shopping center, it is a fact that we are the first shopping center in the whole Middle East, not only in the UAE also. And the crushing plant, when I talk about the crushing plant, a lot of the big boys who are, they said how these people will be successful to have a crushing plant in a country that does not produce any grain or anything like that. And that was the first time in the whole region that and not after that, in Saudi Arabia, there is another crushing plant has come. But we managed to do that because we have we can import any grain from anywhere. Not if I am a crushing plant in Canada or Australia or America, I will only do the grain from that country. But here, being in a neutral place, I can import from anywhere in the world and do the crushing and then re-export it outside.
And some of our clients are because you're in so many diverse industries, that they like to bring non-executive directors, sometimes get an expert in each of those areas. Of course, when we're having the panel after this, as well as kind of that digital board member. Is that a strategy, or do you prefer to have, people from within your group on the board are limited to, you know, the investors, shareholders. What's kind of your approach to bringing non-executive directors or experts in certain areas onto the boards?
I think they add flavor to the food. If you don't have the expert, I think the board will be a little bit dull. So they add a little bit of flavor by stimulating the conversation that will drive the organization towards maybe something better in the future. So it is an excellent thought that an organization can have different directors from expert directors.
Right. One of the things running a business, and I mean, I guess you don't just run a business. I mean, you run an enterprise across so many different industries. This region definitely has its bulls and bears. It has its headwinds and its tailwinds. Right now, I guess we're in a very nice buoyant market. But how do you deal some of those crisis moments when you have responsibility for so many thousands of people, so many assets, and you know, it's not like an expat who things go bad, they jump on a plane and they go home, but you know, we are facing these crises. What's your kind of approach to this type of crisis management, dealing with the helm of the ship when there's a fire on the deck?
You see, we have gone through it many times. I give you the example of the Iraq-Iran war, when there was a threat of missiles coming into the area. And for every situation, you have to face it in its own way. I was making it like a tree. If you are stiff as a tree, the wind will break you. So you have to be a little bit more swaying with the wind. You have to sway back and forth, to not to be broken. If you are like the big trees are there, when the wind comes, it can uproot them from the ground because they are stiff on the top. So be lenient, lean, and I'll give you for example, in the COVID, I have not fired anybody, and I have not reduced salaries of the people. I have not increment, but because that was a crisis time, but we have not reduced the salaries of the people, and we have not fired people where they worked. And this is where you create sincerity to the organization. And I mentioned to you that, you know, one of the things that we had is I am the third generation, but we had one of our staff, his third generation was working with us. So the grandfather, the father, and the son working with us, with me in this organization. So you have to weather what is happening in the world now. You have to, maybe smoke is going to be coming to you, but you close the window. Don't allow the smoke to come in. Put a purifier. So you have used all these other things to help you to prevent choking, for instance.
Right. Dr. Ashraf, you work with a lot of the family groups. Do you feel that, you know, those groups that have strong corporate governance fare better in crisis than those that don't, or what's your experience with that?
Well, honestly, I mean, I have to say that in most of the cases, it is not really about the corporate governance in the companies. It's about the family governance structures. So most of the problems are not that the company have, for example, bad control system or you know, the board is not good in the company. It's really about the family interaction with the business. And that's where most of the problems happen. So, and this is the challenging part. It's very straightforward to go to a company saying, okay, let's have the right board of directors in place, right committees, right control system, risk management system. That's all straightforward in companies, more or less. But it's going to the family saying, okay, now we need to have a system of interaction between the family and the business, for example. So one of the questions that one of the people, for example, raised here is, you know, the criteria for having family members on the board of directors. How do we do that? Which family members can we select to become board members? Which family members can we select to become executives in the companies? You know, do we give compensation for the family members the same as anybody else or not? Is the family business entitled to any family member to work, or do we have conditions and we apply, you know, rules and regulations? This is really the difficult part, and we see a lot of companies which are not doing a good job in this one. Of course, some companies are doing very well. They have a very good system, but other companies still, and families still, they are wondering about in that. So this is really a key challenge where, you know, you need to face that. I'm very glad that Mr. Essa, he is in the third generation, because the third generation is where the problems really start to happen. Because, you know, you have the founder, you have the second generation. It is the third generation where you have lots of proverbs globally about, you know, that's where you start to need to face the problem in this case. So I'm very happy that Mr. Essa, he is third generation and he has this sort of mentality. But again, our advice to other families is you need to think about this carefully, and you have to get the family members together. One of the challenges is communication between family members. So you have some family members who are in the companies, so they have information about, you know, how do we make decisions, amount of profits, financial performance. Others are not engaged in the business, and they have doubts whether, you know, what's really happening in the company. So the idea of creating this communication platform, it's quite essential. They have to understand, and they have to be able to raise questions for those who are engaged in the business, so that they feel comfortable that things are being done well. So I'm not sure, Mr. Essa, does Ghurair have this sort of system for the family, or you are focusing on the companies and the good governance in the companies themselves?
We're focusing actually on you see, communication is very important, critical things between the family members. And be transparent, because transparency will give, you know, why this man, he's getting this much and I'm not getting this. With this transparency, they will be able to see that everybody is treated equally. So directorship and executive directorship and all these things, it depends on the merit of the person. I don't want to appoint somebody who will destroy the company later on. No, it is very important is the company should stay intact, and one or two members will be maybe affected from this, but it's okay. The whole ship has to sail forward. And that's the way we think about it here.
So one of the things I guess you've done very well over the years is managing people, whether it's managing your own family members or the thousands of staff you had. As you said, you have that intergenerational, which kind of speaks to the quality of the work environment if generations of people are working for you. What's kind of your approach to management and managing people, and kind of what lessons can we learn from your years of experience in this field?
I think, you see, my learning in this journey is that your truly asset is not the equipment and the offices and all this. No, that real asset of the organization is the people. And based on how you treat the people, they will, believe me, pay back to you in much more than what you are paying them as a salary. So it's how kind you are to the people. I don't believe in the hire and fire system that it is there. I believe that these people, if they make a mistake, I give them a second chance, that this is a mistake happened, please don't repeat it. Because if I bring somebody else in his place and he will make a mistake and then fire, then what happens? This experience goes to somebody else. No, I prefer to have the person make a mistake to stay with me and not repeat it again. And this one, it creates also loyalty of the people to the organization. this is the way my philosophy is with I treat them as if they are part of the family. I will shake hand even to the security guard. I don't have a problem. This is you get in anything you want from them, you can easily get it out from them.
So give them a second chance, but as one of our members here saying, not a third.
Of course, yes, not a third, because maybe that will damage the company more.
Right, right. So what do you do when you're not taking care of business and running all your industries? Oh, did he freeze again? I think yep, it looks like a
I'm a keen diver. I
oh
dive.
master diver.
We're back. I'm dive master, and I actually at the end of this month I go to the Maldives for holidays with about 15 or 12 people for diving only.
MashaAllah.
I figured you would
Perfect.
spend enough time swimming with sharks in Dubai, so I guess in your spare time you swim with the sharks in the Maldives.
I learned from the sharks in the Maldives that how to avoid them, and here to avoid the sharks here. But you know, the diving has taught me a lesson in my life. You know, one of the most important things when you dive is that you never panic underwater. If you panic underwater, you will do strange things in your life. I mean, it will happen in you because you can do things that can kill you even. So this is, I practice it also here in above water, not only underwater. So never panic when there is a situation confront you.
It's easy to say though, but how do you stay calm, you know, when things are going off? Obviously advantageous to stay calm, but not easy to do that, right?
I have attacked by a shark one time.
Wow.
And then I know the weakest point of the shark was its nose. So I had my camera in front of me and hit the shark hit the camera, not myself, and then run away. You have to see what is, you should know the business you are in and how to avoid the sharks.
That's a good advice. That's a very good advice, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Dr. Ashraf's office is in the DIFC, so I'm sure he has some sharks very close to him.
Plenty of them. Plenty of them.
So, what's your message to the next generation of leaders, to the youth, to those people who want to follow in your footsteps?
Never give up. Don't give up. Nothing is impossible in this world. My father taught me this when I always say, when I was young, he said, oh, this is very difficult. He said, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. With this one, I mean, with this mentality, you will be able to, like climbing a mountain, and you reach the top of the mountain, and there will be another mountain. So another challenge is there. But if you will climb up, you will be able to see more horizon. If you stay on the ground, you will just only see the valleys of the whole things. But if you go up in the mountains and reach the Everest, for instance, or K2, then you will be able to see the world in a different sphere. So nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. But hard work, you had to be there. Hard work.
Has there ever been a time when you really had to use those words, that stalwart, to pull yourself through? Was there ever a time when you really did, you know, feel like quitting? Or
sometimes that thought comes to me, but I always say, okay, it's time to give the children the torch, you know, and stay back. And then you do that, but you keep an eye on them to see if they are using it properly or not, and guide them.
Great, great. Dr. Ashraf, do you have any other quick question?
Well, I mean, Of course, questions can never be over for Mr. Essa, but just I know I'm mindful of his time. So I'd like to thank him very much for his insights. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll be meeting again, maybe face to face, so that we can learn more about your experience and benefit from your achievements. So thank you. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Well, just to summarize, so Mr. Essa, you went to San Diego University, California in 1982 when we were still
I
paying.
finished in 82.
You finished. Oh, okay. So you went in 1978, I guess you went.
Yes.
So the 70s in California must have been a great time, but different than the Middle East. And it was a pre-internet, if anyone can imagine what the life was like before the internet. He has third generation in his family business, and they opened the first mall, Al Ghurair Center. I didn't know that was the first mall in the Middle East, 1978, and had some guidance from Sheikh bin Rashid, telling him that only 10% of the Dubai is what you see here, what we're going to build. So vision, the importance of vision, of strategy. We talked about the importance of hard work and those long hours that you put in, sometimes coming back at 11 p.m. to your son, only thought you were his uncle. So the sacrifices there and the pressure that the entrepreneur puts on their family. And then, one of your big business strategies is the importance of first mover advantage and having the guts and the courage of your convictions, whether it's making the first and largest grain crushing plants to shopping malls, to the largest coffee roastery. You put your money where your mouth is, and you go all in, and you don't quit. You talked about the importance of thinking big, and today you're actually exporting into China rather than just taking the imports from China. You talked also about the importance of loyalty, to be transparent, to trust people and treat people equally, which kind of shows in the different generations that have been working for you, and that you enjoy swimming with the sharks whenever you can, a dive master, and that the key lesson there is to stay calm, keep a clear head in order to make the right decisions when you're under pressure and you're dealing with those fires. So I think there's a lot of learnings there. And it's a real honor to have you on. I mean, you really are a man who has contributed a lot to the community, and businessmen obviously do care about their bottom line, but it's obvious with you that you care a lot more about your people and the society, and we've all really enjoyed speaking with you. So thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf, and we look forward, inshallah, to be with you anytime. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're also welcome to stay on. We have thank you so much. You're welcome to stay on. We have now the tech guys coming up. We have discussion about one of the big trends now. I'm sure, Dr. Ashraf, you'd agree, is that people want to have tech gurus on their board, driving the digital transformation, the AI, the blockchain, the big data, the data scientists, everything else that they want to do. I'm sure a lot of these entrepreneurs dream of a company with no salary expense, no people, just AI robots printing money for you. I don't think that's necessarily the approach, but what we have is a really great lineup. Obviously, tough act to follow, His Excellency Ghurair, but let's see what we can do here. So coming up now, it's really my pleasure to introduce Mr. Faris Akkad. He's the Regional Director Regional Director MENA at Meta. Almost a tongue twister, MENA at Meta, but for those of us who are from the baby boomer generation, Facebook is one of the assets under him. You might have heard of it. And he's an entrepreneur by nature. He's founded, funded, and exited startups globally, while also advising and investing in regional startups and VCs. He's a founder of some of them. You might remember Glambox. That was the brainchild of Mr. Ferris here. And he's also on the board of Bengadi, Enhanced Fitness, Kids Zone It, Aliph Capital, Takreem Foundation, and Kafu. If any of you have had your gas filled up in your driveway, one of the number of amenities we enjoy here in Dubai. Previously, Ferris has had experience at Strategy and Booz Allen Hamilton and KPMG in Los Angeles in their media and technology practice. He holds a master's degree with honors in biotechnology and information systems, along with an MBA focusing on entrepreneurship and finance, a potent alloy of skills there. And he's based in Dubai. He has, with his wife and 2 children, and he's worked across US, Europe, Africa, and South America. So please welcome Mr. Ferris Akkad. There he is. Man, a few words. Okay. I think
MashaAllah, Mr. Faris, it's a huge, sorry. MashaAllah, Mr. Faris, it's really a huge sort of bio or a CV and lots of achievements. So we're really looking forward to listen to you and to get inspiration from you. I mean, a lot of people here would love to, listen to experience of somebody like yourself, so that can, they can get inspired and maybe replicate you somehow. So thank you for being with us.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with all of you.
And our second panelist is Dieter Dratwa, digital strategist and digital board director. His experience, digital experience, is expansive, far-reaching, with previous leadership roles at such companies as Arthur D. Little, Accenture, McKinsey and Company, Kearney, and others. Mr. Dratwa has a master's degree in computer science, and he has helped many of the banks on their digital transformation. Everybody has to have a digital bank now and a digital app, and their whether it's wealth management, retail, or whatnot. This is his expertise is helping companies move from the traditional to the unconventional online. So welcome, Dieter.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you guys. And what do you guys think really is the board's role in a digital transformation? I mean, how much of that responsibility falls with the board? And I guess this is kind of a gray area where vision and strategy, as you get into management, obviously execution will be with the management team, but how involved, hands-on or hands-off, should the board be in these type of things?
Happy to start. So look, I mean, I think it really goes back to how you think of technology and the role it will play in your sector and industry. We would all agree that the use of technology, and it's such a broad term, I think now technology has become almost unanimous with progress, so you kind of have to pinpoint it. But just for the sake of discussion, we could all agree that it's quite pervasive across all sectors, and so this digital evolution and digital progress is almost an ongoing exercise. So I see it as a board, it's not just to set the tone and the strategy for such a evolution, but also to ensure that it's pervasive across all aspects of the company at all levels. The moving forward or digitization of an organization needs to happen with creating optimization at all levels. It has operational implications such as cost saving, headcount optimization, strategic discussions around industry shifts and analysis. It has customer service expectations. So it as far as like customer service, follow up, upselling, cross-selling, all of this is not just like one solution fixes all. It's a philosophy that the company has to embody and has to be on an ongoing journey with. And with that said, then having a board that A, has the interest, B, has the willingness, and C, has the capability and know-how, even that, to Mr. Ghurair's point, I think he hit it on, which is adding flavor to a board of shareholders. I think it's always a good value add. Starting from the optics of it, it's a great way to signal to the market that you are committed to this, all the way to execution and actually very tangible results when you get it right.
So maybe I'm kind of in the same direction. From my perspective, I think digital transformation is such a fundamental change and fundamental shift that it not just affects like one area, as you mentioned, couple, but it can even affect the business model. Yeah. So therefore, for me, this is like it's like a core strategic decision that not just needs to be guided by the board, but maybe even led by the board. So that could be like by appointment by a certain direct like board member that overlooks this and has oversight over this. And let's not underestimate the possibilities in various and basically all sectors what transformation and digital transformation can do. And what in the recent past we have seen business models change because of use or different use of technology. That's actually the strategic dimension of it, which I believe is really rooted or has to be rooted in the board. And therefore, I see this more as not just as an oversight, but like actually led by the board would be my positioning.
Right. I mean, what I see is, the board says, okay, yeah, we want to do the digital transformation. Let's hire, this rock star chief information officer who's going to lead it. But they're not really ready to deploy the resources that guy needs or that lady would need. And then the first question the candidate will ask is, what's your budget for IT? How much are you going to spend? And of course, the board can't answer that question because you have to be pretty tech savvy to make a call on what's the right amount of capex or expenditure that you should be investing in your IT department, and what's that return. So I mean, how does a board, if you're not tech savvy, how are you supposed to tackle this? And a second, of course, those good candidates, they know that you don't have a budget, the right budget. They just hang up, they'll just disappear because they don't want to have any part of it, right?
And it's not just a budget. I mean, it's like a transformation. It's not called transformation for no reason. So it's like really transforms the business. So it's about the people resistance. So if somebody new comes in, he doesn't know what are the relationships that are there, what has failed in the past and so on. So this kind of connection of how this organization is working, yeah, and how to make something work, what has worked in the past, that needs to be translated or given to the new person, if a new person is really the right way of going. So there's of course also the kind of organical way of going, like by training the people to do the next step. That's there are certain roles in certain areas where you get expertise from outside, even by consultancies, for instance. And there are others where you say like, okay, this has to be homegrown, and therefore I invest into it and the training. And then that's the basis for the next digital step to do.
Yeah, I think the board's role, if you kind of zoom out a little bit, is obviously setting the strategy and the vision to maximize shareholder value and create some checks and balances around also the operation of the organization. And so having the know-how to understand that you need to create that vision to involve technology is one part of, to your point, Shane, and empowering the right CTO to do what they need to do, but also then making sure that what they're proposing is reasonable and in line with the business. So, that's why having the expertise, the technology expertise at a board level is not just necessary, but essential to create credibility into the decisions. The other common issue that I see with boards going through digital transformation is that they primarily look at the IT function and improving the IT function. And that's obviously an empowering and necessary foundation for the organization. But most organizations that are going through true digital transformation usually need to look at their existing products and services. And I'll give you like a couple of examples of organizations I participated in, which is, television and media. As they shifted from satellite to OTT or video on demand, a lot of them had to take a revenue cut. There's a strategic decision to say we're going to shift from the channel that currently makes us a lot of money to a channel that makes us slightly less money, because that is the future, and we're going to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. That takes a lot of emotional endurance and takes a lot of conviction at the board level to be able to ride such a storm. And I think that, if you ask me, what is the biggest reason for delays or failures of digital transformation, it's that friction with the legacy business. It's not hard to find very good CTOs, CIOs. It's not hard to find, it might be expensive to find very good technical people, but it's not impossible. The challenge is, how do you get the rest of the organization that's comfortable doing what they're doing with good arguments on being better, more efficient, and businesses with better margins, to basically make an investment at a large scale and a slight gamble to be future proof.
Right. Well, interesting points. What we've seen is that, if you kind of graph the position of the CIO, from 2000 to like over the last 24 years, what you really see is a kind of a movement from a back office function that was focused on efficiencies and streamlining processes to, where it really becomes the front office, where now, they're dealing directly with a customer. And I guess the need is to find that CIO who has that commercial business development that really sees their ability to create products, systems that drive revenue and profitability. That's kind of, and then those CIOs who do have that, they end up becoming chief executive officers. So they don't stick around as CIOs very long. If you have a board who doesn't have any tech background, they really kind of struggle to see how that digital piece is going to generate, revenue, and kind of this new multi-channel environment is kind of what we're seeing. And so you're kind of, that kind of response of saying, hey, now we need a tech person on the board. They're really saying, well, we don't have the right tech capability. We need a CIO, we need a CTO, we need a chief online revenue officer. You start to see this explosion of these C-suite roles. And then as a result, now, Faris, you're on the real estate company board, which traditionally wasn't so concerned. You used to think of the construction sites and the mud and the architects and the engineers. But now you have this kind of like swanky tech guys being put on there. Is that as a result of that, where you're saying, hey, you guys should really be selling your next building by Bitcoin through the app, right?
Why not?
Well, first of all, thank you for the swanky reference. But look, I think some of it is a lot more basic than going on Bitcoin. I'm going to give you a tangible example. Today announced that the Dubai real estate market has hit a record high. It's larger than the UK. It's quite impressive, right? And that's not only happening, obviously, from consumption in the region. That's happening from a lot of investment overseas. So how do you reach those investors in their home country while they're making the consideration to relocate or invest abroad, right? And that's best done through technologies, through advertising, etc. One of the biggest expenses for developers after the actual construction is marketing and sales, and a lot of that is commissions. So if you can go direct to consumer, bypassing some of the agents, the brokers, etc., which a lot of developers are now doing, that's massive saving, and that could be done through technology, right? Identifying the right customer profile, reaching out to them, facilitating that transaction remotely. And Bitcoin becomes a means to an end to be able to facilitate that transaction remotely. But I think there are real tangible technology implications on construction, on having smart buildings, on having more sustainable buildings that come into play in infusing themselves into the day-to-day, everyday aspect of that business before you start going into some of the futuristic things. We're seeing stuff in Dubai where you know, they're having metaverse viewings on $10 million apartments and people closing deals without even seeing the place. These things are happening today because this is a trailblazing real estate market, primarily driven by innovation and being nimble and flexible to address the various needs that might pop up around the world, whether it's securing cash, relocation because of geopolitical problems, you know, providing a value proposition as a city of safety, you know, diversity, etc. And so all of these key success factors have a very strong technology enabler in them. So, and I would argue, to your point, construction is probably on that side of the spectrum when it comes to technology. And if they can be benefiting from this, I really would argue any business, any industry could give a second view, looks at things with a different prism when it comes to technology.
Sure. Dr. Ashraf, I don't know, are you seeing maybe boards going as far as having a tech subcommittee to help complement this process? Because it sounds like it's it's literally out of this world, you know, this metaverse. If you ever see that movie Player One, it's quite an eye opener as to what's going to happen, right, when this takes mainstream.
I mean, I have to say this sounds much easier said than done, everything that we heard right now. Because we deal with lots of boards in the region, and what's happening is this. Boards are controlled by shareholders, and in this part of the world, the ownership structure is mostly you have like 2 or 3 big shareholders, and they control the board completely. Very traditional, sort of classical conservative boards. I remember one of the very big financial institutions in the region. We had an event with them on risk, and the head of risk was saying it was very difficult for me to convince the board to invest in cybersecurity. And that's a big bank. It's a big bank one of the biggest in the region, by the way. And what he had to do is every board meeting, he would have to bring in the scandals which happen in other banks, and to quantify the amount of, you know, losses they made because of lack of investment, until he was able to get that investment from the board approved, so that they can have a good cybersecurity system. Now, cybersecurity is not something recent. It's really quite sort of, you know, many years back. So now what we see is we are always telling boards, you need it. Again, I really challenge what you said, which is it's not about IT, because a lot of companies, what they do is they have money, they invest in the best IT systems. That's not it. It's really about how to use technology as a competitive advantage for you in your industry. And it's happening now in every single industry, as Faris and Dratwa said. Previously, it used to be in certain industries, manufacturing. Now it's every single industry. Technology is essential in the area of competitiveness. It's just how to translate that, how to know what kind of technology we can use so that we can beat the market and we can be ahead of the curve. We cannot find experts in the region. I'm sure Faris and Dratwa are much more experienced than this. Now, if you talk about, you know, thousands of boards, you need people who have technical knowledge, but also industry knowledge.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you think about the fintech, now the fintech came not from the banking sector because of the classical way of banking sector thinking and the boards and the regulations. It came from, you know, outside. So, but people have to understand the financial models and then technology and how to combine this into competitive advantage. My question for the gentleman is really this: how to educate the board on that? How can we, you know, it's like a stimulus. How can we really incentivize the board to think of technology and competition and profits? This is really the difficult part. And boards are very relaxed and very sort of classical. You call the financial statements all the time, you know, but that's it. So how can we do that? How can we move things with the boards of directors?
I would say it's education in the digital area. Like it's like it is a pillar, as it is finance or HR, pervasive through the whole company. So it is something that is not just a hype that will go away. It is something that drives the business. Yeah? And as you said, I mean, there's like Neelie Cross, for instance, on the World Economic Forum in Davos was just mentioning virtually every business is a digital business now. And that's very true. It's not just, you know, the customer experience and the little AI robots that people see right now. It is like the processes, how things are done, but also the way how your business creates value. This can be a completely different perspective if you look at from with a digital like view. Yeah, it could change the business completely. And that's why I don't think that the deciders can be influenced somehow. They need to decide by themselves, which means the only option is to educate them. What is the impact of digital? What is the impact on my value chain? And because somebody needs to do the translation, as you rightly said, it's not just there's a hype word out there, let's call it blockchain or whatever it is, and then we jump on that train. We don't know, or it depends on the business, if that technology actually applies to value creation in my business. And then there's also the maturity of it. Maybe I need to wait a little bit longer until blockchain has a certain maturity, and then it will create value for me. Yeah? Whereas for some other business, they need to be the first ones to actually be there. So let's take blockchain as an example. Governments need to be very much at the forefront of blockchain because they need to regulate it. They need to offer options of exchanges so that like not certain subgroup of blockchains are then isolated. And then if I have a government blockchain that has to be pervasive across my citizenship will not work anymore because there's no exchange. So certain things, certain groups, sectors / government was my example now, need to be at the forefront, whereas others should wait a little bit. But that's really a conscious decision of understanding the business and understanding the technology. So that link somebody needs to do. And this can be, as you said, a technology subcommittee. It could be a technology expert. That's why I'm calling myself the digital board member. Yeah, so because that is the expertise as part of the board. That's an opportunity. But even then, it's necessary to educate all the other board members on the basics of how the principles of digital work and what the latest technology means for our business. And then decisions can be made on a factual basis.
So, you know, now let's talk about how this translates into cash, money, into profits, into revenue, what we all like. I mean, we were purchasing some furniture for our office, and we were having little, you need all these little different things to make everything work. And then we clicked the button to talk to the person, and immediately, actually, they were like a live video call. And rather than having the WhatsApp thing, we were just blown away about how awesome that was. It made it so much easier because most of the other companies are like using the technology so that you can't talk to anyone in the company, if your life depended on it. But that actually, and they were actually able to upsell us and drive revenue. So in your guys' experience, what have you seen some products that actually make money? Because the market's full of these .com companies and these tech companies that have no revenue, no profits. And so do you have any examples where you've seen clients or people you work with where they've released digital elements into their business that have actually delivered bottom line results?
I have many. I mean, how much time you have, but basically, I mean, just to touch on, let's say, messaging, right? Because the video call you got on most likely is a WhatsApp video call, or one of those free messaging devices. Look, it's to the earlier point. We were giving a hard time to traditional board members, saying they don't understand technology, they don't invest. I think it's on the technology people to explain how that works from a business standpoint. It's not, the most frustrating thing for me, coming from a technology background, is when a technology person gets up there and it's full of acronyms and tech terms that don't tie exactly to what we do. And naturally, a board member, a CEO that's overlooking a full spectrum of activities that the company does is not going to have the time to educate themselves on what that means. However, if you come with a upselling, cross-selling solution or a customer service solution to your case, I think that's much more likely to be listened to. So, BN Sports in the region today does 80% of their customer service through WhatsApp, and not just in the region. They do this. They're able to scale this. They operate in 22 regions. So they're a global player. They're probably one of, not the biggest acquirer of sports rights now globally, and they managed to do that. They follow consumer habits. Anecdotally, that it's quite invasive now to get a call, or even to have to make a call. You want to be able to do things on the fly. And ideally, it's great. They probably identified you as a high value customer, so they got a person in front of you. But 80-90% of the interaction should happen over WhatsApp, ideally with a bot that feels quite seamless to you. And then if you have quite a unique or bespoke problem, then it escalates to a human interaction. That's a perfect example that, again, any organization can make use of. There's nothing more annoying than making a call to an IVR system that has 9 choices with 5 different sub-choices in each, and it takes you 50 minutes to even get to talk to a human, and you're already frustrated and disgruntled as a customer. I think following the trend of how markets want to interact is the least friction way to make money. Hala Taxi in Dubai now also uses WhatsApp to request orders. Dubai is expected to receive 30 million tourists this year. It's unrealistic to expect all of them to download the Hala Taxi app or even the Kareem app, which is quite pervasive in the region. I think it's quite safe to assume that most of them already have WhatsApp or one of those popular apps that you're able to then do this through it. And we've done studies similar to here when talking to Hala Taxi in Brazil, where the hail riding company there tried it with WhatsApp, and instead of cannibalization, it actually increased the download of the app. Once people order 3 to 4 times using WhatsApp, then they see the benefit of just downloading the app, because the payment can be a little bit more seamless, and it can remember some data about them. So there's a lot of examples where there is that. Where I see it not work is where you're trying to force a consumer behavior just because you have some cool technology, or you have something that you're trying to showcase. That is a much harder lift. And it's not impossible. You might have something quite revolutionary. The iPhone did this for smart apps, etc. But I think the safe way to go as a traditional business is to see where consumer behavior is heading and find the technology to address that shift.
Maybe to show a different direction of technology, what it can do. Also, if we see banks and in particular wealth management, I recently was in one of the largest Middle Eastern banks, and wealth management is a traditional business where the rich talks to an advisor that helps then his investment. So that's a one-on-one thing. The scaling of this, of course, is limited because the bank needs a certain number of advisors. So when now technology comes into play, and then AI is a good driver here. So if you basically codify those financial advisor intelligence, if you codify this into a robo-advisor, AI-driven because data needs to be behind and so on, but let's say an AI-driven robo-advisor, you can not just make the processes of the advisors more efficient. That's one thing, because they get like suggestions and they can like scroll through data that manually they would not be able to do. So that increases the efficiency. But what you also can do is you address a completely new market, because now you basically can scale completely into a mass market, whereas before you had this one-to-one personal relationship, you replace this now with an app. And of course, you have all the intelligence out of the advisor then codified in there, but also all the usage of the app is then reflecting back. So if I see that certain people are then very successful in their investment strategy, what they do, I can start copying it. And then I have something like eToro. Yeah, or I can just analyze which are the interesting customers for the bank, and then I again go back to the one-to-one relationship, because then I have then other benefits from it. So here's like an option where technology actually enables a market that with the traditional model would just not be able to address.
Right. I just haven't seen any bank really use these technologies in any way that inspires me to spend more money with them personally. mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anybody out there who's like, no, my bank used the automated assistant and it's just such a much better experience, really, I think they should just say, press 1 if you want to use our bot, press 2 if you want to talk to a human being.
That would be
And,
great. It's a nightmare dealing with the system. It's a nightmare.
There you go. Yeah.
There's one thing actually I don't want to miss because of, again, people are listening here. Now, as you mentioned correctly, that it's really very good to have somebody who understands technology on the board of directors. And that person can be, the sort of starting point for having maybe a board level technology committee or maybe joint between the board and the management. Yep. And because we don't really have that many people who understand technology very well, in Hawkamah, we train directors and potential directors and so on. The most successful person that we had was a female who was very good in technology. And she really specialized in technology and fintech and so on. And once she was known in the market, she was just in so many boards of directors. So I'm telling people that you aspire to become board member. Remember Essa Ghurair, he said something about value adding. Now that's really value added. You have people understand finance or a strategy or a business, but you don't have that many who understand technology very well. So I would advise people study technology, understand. Now the question to our speakers is, what kind of technology, what kind of studies can people, somebody who graduated from engineering or business, what can they study or understand that will make them add value to a board of directors? What kind of studies or courses or things to take?
Well, I mean, it's not the deep technology like how does a blockchain work or how do I program now that software. It's the interface between business and technology. What is the value that technology can give? And what is the question that business is asking that technology can then answer? Yeah, so it's really this interface. What is the critical point?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing that I would caution is going getting a technical person and putting them on the board. I'm not sure that I think the gap between the value that they provide and what the board is looking for will be too wide. You're looking for someone who has an interest and curiosity about technology that can manifest it with a deep understanding of the industry. So if you don't have a deep understanding of the inner working of an industry, it's very difficult to propose areas in which technology can advance or shift things, right? It's easy to argue that every industry can benefit from technological advances. The challenge is how do you execute on that? So, the buzzword this year is AI. I think that's here to stay for a while. So your understanding of AI should not be about chips or NVIDIA parallel processing versus Croc serial processing. That's probably for expertise to be brought in to implement. But the potential, the implications, the risks, the safeguard that you need to do, any seismic change that will happen at an industry level to your industry as a result of this technology, these are things that you need to be fully aware of as a board. And if you don't have the right expertise, have the right expertise to bring the right expertise, which is an expertise by itself, to have someone to say, we need someone to come and talk to us about the implications of AI on manufacturing or on the consulting industry or the legal industry, etc. I think once you have those understanding and the board is given enough information to make an educated decision, all of a sudden, all the legacy knowledge of the industry becomes extremely useful. This is not to downplay people who've been doing oil and gas for decades. What they know is extremely valuable in this transformation journey. They just need someone to guide them on what they're looking ahead for, right? Like what is the road ahead? What are the forks in that road and what type of decisions they need to be making? And then they're probably the best fit to make those decisions, not just from an expertise standpoint, because most of the board members in the region are also shareholders. And so at the end of the day, your role is to best equip them to make the best educated decision.
Right. So lots of times, when you're dealing with business, a lot of the business people I deal with say it's not really about, what you should be doing, or it's more about what you don't do, especially in kind of these emerging markets where there's so much opportunity. What, in your opinion, are some of the biggest mistakes that boards do when driving these digital transformations? Because I'm sure all of you have been part of digital transformations that are disasters, you know, that don't work out. So what are some of the big mistakes that these board members make, or that anybody in our audience now should avoid? Because 100% everybody's going through digital transformation. So, you know, what are the common mistakes to avoid?
Let's start with two that I see all the time. Number one is, I call it the fad, right?
The what? The bath?
The fad, like what the
Oh, the
buzzword
fad.
they use
Okay.
is, right?
Okay.
Whether it's, you know, if it's metaverse, if it's AI, if it's Web 3.0, if it's, you know, whatever comes next. All of those are very valid technological advances. What I see a lot in the region is that people take the very thin kind of external layer. You know, they want to create some sort of digital twin without really a business value, a business purpose, etc. Or they just want to create an activation of sorts, right? Without true transformation. And that's all it is. It's an activation. Even with social media, at some point, people just wanted likes or wanted followers. And it doesn't make sense if you don't have a way to monetize or engage with those followers. The second thing is people underestimating a technological shift. We're a traditional, you know, family business, and we're going to go e-commerce. That's a complete shift to how you do business, completely. If you're a franchise business, then that exposes you to, why can't the mother brand do this? Where do you fit in the value chain? You know, your locations in malls become less relevant anymore. Your support becomes a completely different model. And so you're looking at completely uplifting the organization, potentially changing the nature of your employees, etc. And the third, just to be kind of ironic about it, is also overestimating what, you know, what a transformation could look like. Like, it's impossible. You know, people always underestimate what they can, you know, overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I think for some of these decisions that are existential for businesses, like the franchise model you alluded to earlier, which is very pervasive in the region, you absolutely have to embark on this journey, and be fully committed to it with fundamental and in-depth transformation, not just a sugarcoating kind of approach to it.
Peter, I guess you also
Yeah.
a bit, as a consultant, have a nice perspective on this as well, I guess.
As a consultant, I have seen many mistakes. That's why we're often called in. Yeah. So
You're
I
also
would
blamed
say,
for most of them, right? As well as a consultant.
well, that's partially also why we were called in. Yeah. So let's say, I would say, like, blindly trust the CEO. So that if you don't challenge, if you don't oversight, I think the boards should be a thought partner of the management, and should be also able to do so. We talked about the hype thing and be in the right time. I think that's also clear. But then, let's say, having a clear direction and a set goal as a business value. Yeah, so not just following a technology because the technology sounds nice right now, or because one person says, like, in my area, I really need it. If there's not a goal set as a business value that you can track as a project, it's actually not really a project, and you cannot really say, is it finished, or, like, do we need to invest more to get there? Yeah. So the business value as a goal, I think, set is crucial. And the other thing that I would say is crucial is leaving people out of sight. So it's a lot about resistance and having people coming along on that journey, and having also the adequate talent that can actually drive it. Yeah? So it's not just the people that do the current work as they do and how we can make them change, but it's also, like, the new technology, having the right expertise to then implement it in the right way. So for me, is the focus on people is a crucial mistake, or the lack of focus on people that I see in digital transformations.
Sure. Dr. Ashraf, any last question for our tech gurus here, or?
Well, actually, I mean, I think that was already a very good dose of information. One comment Mr. Faris mentioned, which I really like very much, is how to simplify things for boards of directors. If you give them somebody who will talk about lots of jargon and sophisticated technology terminologies, you lose them immediately. So I think the challenge for me in Hawkamah, at least, because we address lots of boards, is how to come up with some sort of a presentation of few slides to try to tell boards that this is really, very important. You have to go for it, and you should invest more, and you should do more in a very simple, non-technology sophisticated way. So that's a challenge I will have to face. And if you guys have anything to help me, anything to read that will help me to do that, because we address boards all the time. I mean, we have lots of board sessions. It's mandated actually for listed companies here in the UAE. So we have to talk to boards. So that would be a very good topic to say, let's talk about this for 30 minutes. And just get them sort of excited about it. So I think this is, thank you so much for this information. And we'll be doing our best to try to promote this idea of technology, on the boards of directors.
Yeah, I want to thank you. It's obviously a topic we could spend, I probably will spend the next 10, 20, 30 years talking about it. But it is pervasive. I mean, you talked about how at the board level, it's really about a philosophy change. It's about really having the interest, the willingness, the capability, and the board really needs to change that kind of that tone from the top. Has to come from the top. And then the challenges, you also talked about the people resistance, the organizational inertia that you will face when you're trying to push it. And and then you gave some very interesting examples. The Dubai real estate. Will we be shopping in the metaverse? Who knows what's going to be going on in the metaverse, but it is something to keep an eye on, and having that tech dialogue, that narrative at a high level in the board, promoting these ideas, and the importance of digital education, making sure that you are educating your board members in terms of what they need to do. And then you also talked about, not getting caught up in a fad, but, maybe sometimes it's okay to be a late adopter, or is it mission critical to your business and you have to take first mover advantage, or you're going to get wiped out, like, the classic case the Kodak case that everyone talks about with the digital cameras. Maybe that's what will happen. And tech people need to start talking business, not talking tech. And you gave some great examples of how, simple apps, you can't just be the app Nazi and force customers into your own tech ecosystem. You might want to piggyback on existing ecosystems to drive your customer experience. And you also gave some example in wealth management, how robo-advisory is really creating impact. And then we talked about the big mistakes people make, which is don't jump on the fad. Don't underestimate what it takes, what's going to happen in your tech shift. You might be really totally transforming your business. Are you ready for that? And don't overestimate, where you're going to go. Try to be basically realistic, or I guess the lesson there is be realistic in terms of what you're doing. And don't let boards blindly trust the CEO. You need to have probably some other touch points in terms of partnering with that, and make sure you have a clear vision, a clear direction of where you're going as a business. So those are all great takeaways. I'm sure you guys are going to be cashing in on this trend over the next few years as people scramble to get some tech talent on their boards, and who knows, maybe Philips Group will help with some of those placements, inshallah. So it was really a pleasure seeing you, listening to you guys, and I look forward to catching up for coffee maybe down the road. So thanks again for making this a great event, and we hope you stay with us for our next session, which is some of my favorite people here as we talk about boards and profitability. We're talking about success metrics, dashboards, management dashboards in the board. And these ladies, they just happen to both be women. So it's not a women's panel. It's a panel about making money and what kind of KPIs you need to put your finger on the pulse in order to drive that profitability. And there's no one better at this, in my opinion, than Ms. Huda Lawati, who's the founder and CEO of Aliph Capital. She's really a legendary personality within the business landscape. She has decades of experience, private equity operations, investments across emerging markets. She's been a partner at Gateway Partners. She's been a chief investment officer at Savola Group, the largest edible oil company in the world. She was a chief investment officer at Abraj Group. She's probably been part of the pioneers of private equity across the GCC, and she served on multiple boards, including the Pride of Canada, Tim Hortons. She was on the board there for the Middle East. Panda Retail Company, Herfy, Al Kabir, Savola Foods Company, SMG, the entertainer, ADC Acquisition Corporation, Hala Payments, Alula Development Company, and Young Arab Leaders. She's currently an independent board member at Spinneys, Saudi Francie Capital, Maghrabi, and Abu Kir Fertilizers. She is a member of the Young Presidents Organization, Puin, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Tomo, maybe you can help me with the pronunciation. She also has a degree in neuroscience and a bachelor in business economics honors. So she might psychoanalyze us as well. So who knows? Thank you so much for coming, Huda. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And also we have Mrs. Barbara Daliri Freyduni. She's a board director and former chief marketing officer for Google, Microsoft, and Netflix. She's a distinguished board member and chairwoman, guiding globally renowned companies in the tech and consumer retail sectors with a strategic focus on data-driven insights. With over 20 years of experience, she's driven profitable growth for some of the world's most innovative brands. Her career includes leadership roles as global head of marketing and sales at Zalando, chief marketing officer Western Europe for Microsoft, and marketing director Europe at both Netflix and Google. So welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure here. So, you know, one of the things, you know, you always find in an assessment is really just if you know, what we do is just ask, you know, what are the metrics you're using to optimize your business? And that really kind of tells you whether that executive is driving peak performance or not. And then I think talking with Huda, I think she does the same thing, perhaps. Not sure, she'll answer that question, I guess. But what should the board, when you're on a board, what's your approach to data, to reporting, and what you let your management team get away with or not get away with? What's your tolerance on that point? Huda, sorry,
Right.
that's for,
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me and for that lovely, probably not earned introduction. So thank you. Look, I think there's an interesting concept when you ask questions like what you let your management team get away with. I think obviously the base principle is that it's not a war between management and board members, and it's not, you know, we hope that that's not the case. That should be the first thing. But I think in terms of data, what I found is that you have a few, let's call it conditions in different boards. One condition that you need to treat. One is this over inundating the board with data, which is just, it's not information, it's not insights, it's literally just different numbers or data points just thrown in a really big pack, and you're not able to decipher anything or take any insights from it. Another condition we see is board packs or board reporting material that is very, very basic and uninsightful, and that'll tell you what the revenue and the profit is, but you don't know what's driving the revenue, you don't know what's driving the profitability, you don't know how things have changed. There's no follow through, no update on things that you've agreed. And the third condition we see is part of a general condition in managing portfolio or boards or any company, which is anecdotal management and anecdotal reporting, which is you rely on stories, single events, which can be distracting. They could be big. They could, it could be a big media campaign. It could be a big product launch, but it's not really giving you the full picture, and it's just a distraction. So I think what you aim to do is to be very clear as a board, what are the KPIs of the business, how often they should be tracked, how they relate to business, what are sort of just monitoring and KPIs, what are risk management, and what are leading indicators that tell you about what's coming in the future of the business. It's usually a process. I don't think anybody goes into a business, any board member, even owners that go into businesses knowing exactly what that is. But I think you should have enough knowledge going in to have a sense of it. You should listen to management when they tell you something is hard to measure or something is not relevant. And I find often, just relating it back to the prior panel, a lot of the time when you want to track the right data, a lot of what you get is, oh, we can't track that, or we don't have the ability, and the solution is actually in technology. So I think it's how I deal with it personally is first see what is being presented, what the business already tracks, what management looks at, what the board is usually shown, what the owner is shown, and then see if I think that's giving me a clear picture or not. It's always good to look at best practice. There are, there's the public markets across any sector, subsector in the world. You can pick up the best in class reporting and see, okay, do I have these metrics? Are they relevant to me? And then from there, build the right dashboard, the right board reporting pack.
So just to, for some of maybe our members who aren't as metric driven, what are some examples of these lead indicators? I mean, obviously the late indicators would be, like revenue, net profit. These are the ones that are historic, not really telling us what's going on in the business. But what would you see as your, what I call pre-success metrics, or your lead indicators, where you can really get a finger on, where we're going to be in 3-4 months from now, just how the business is actually performing?
It varies by sector, but for example, in a business that has an element of contractual orders, etc., it'll be the order, not even before the order book, it would be the queries coming in, the calls you get in. In consumer businesses, you could look at maybe your sales are the same, but you see traffic is dwindling in, or people going through websites, that traffic is dwindling, maybe conversion rates are starting to come down. There's a lot of things that it differs a lot by sector. In the education sector, queries, I remember we once had a K-12 in our portfolio, and you really know that people, you have waiting lists. First you have the enrollments, then you have the one before that, which is waiting list, but the one before that is how many people are asking to be on the waiting list. So you have to formalize and systemize ways of tracking those as well.
Right. And so one of the things, I guess it's kind of like, if your management team starts telling stories, that's kind of like the blood in the water, hey, this is, you need to circle in that this could be a reason that, hey, they're not on top of their numbers. They're not, maybe there's maybe other issues there that you need to dig in. So if a board member sees this is maybe one of the indications that you want to immediately kind of swoop down into the granular details to get a better idea of what's happening.
Yeah, you have to balance, right? You have to, obviously you want to listen to the stories of the business and what's happening on the ground and hear some of those stories, yes. But you also, if you're asking why did revenue go down by 10%, and they start telling you stories that we did this really great campaign, you're like, okay, stop, there's a problem. Can you answer this question first? The other thing is, if you get one example I love, is, in terms of picking out discrepancies, there's a business that would report an increase in market share and a reduction or a certain level of reduction or flatness in growth, and then you look at those numbers, you look at market, and you're like, but that doesn't tie up. And then you always get like, oh no, there's destocking and stocking because we're not at the end point. That should happen only once. Only one quarter can you get a destocking answer, right? That means that somebody in the market, distributor or storage or warehouse or depot bought a lot, so the market numbers are not reflected. But it can't happen every quarter. There's a problem there. So these are the kind of things you have to start picking out on.
Sure. So, Barbara, I guess you have an advantage in this case because coming from marketing and coming from, kind of big brand, Fortune 100 marketing as well. It's all about the data and the insights. And I think you talk about data-driven profitability and your ability to really translate those kind of lead indicators and data insights into bottom line. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it builds a little bit on what Huda just said. Data-driven profitability, I mean, you have achieved this or you're going towards that direction when the board shifts from focusing on historical data, which is classic P&L, for example, to what I would describe it forward-looking KPIs that will shape the future. You do know this. So I give you an example, customer lifetime value, right? If you see customer lifetime value going up, it's very likely a very strong signal that you have more loyal customer who are rebuying and so on and so forth. If you see your return of investment for marketing investments pointing into the right direction, you might be on the right track to move your marketing cost to an investment line. And it's in general a good sign your marketing dollars are working and so on and so forth. So it's really a concentration of leading indicators that signal business health or give you an indicator if your business is healthy enough for whatever you want to achieve. And it helps by default then management to steer their actions towards these KPIs. So I think this is kind of the secret weapon, which I would always say. You need to have data, but usually less is more. So it's more not about numbers or the amount of numbers. It's more about, are you getting the insights that you as a board wants to have to understand the status of strategy execution, to understand the health of the business, but also you want, more importantly, that management understands what they're chasing and where they need to concentrate. And the second beauty of, if you have this right, is that you can link initiatives, the time that the team is spending to those measures which you do know or hypothesize will drive those investment KPIs.
And I guess going back to kind of what Huda said at the beginning, where, it's really about that partnership between the board and management, that this, management's kind of in the trenches, gun smoke and cannon fodder flying all over the place. Sometimes you can't see through the fog of war, but having a board that's helping you focus on, as you said, these are the top 3 KPIs that you need to move over the next 3 months. These are really what we need to focus on. And then you mentioned, like tying that to, larger kind of focus of your efforts that can actually give you that kind of catapulting in performance once you get that kind of level of focus. And of course, if the board isn't focused on it, and it's going to make it harder for the management to get there, right?
Yeah, and if to build on this, if you are not linking it to what the business is doing, what all the people are doing every single day, then what I have seen, you end up very often in a kind of pointless conversations about numbers. And usually you have then management explaining why numbers are as they are, but this is not adding value. And that is usually also a waste of time in the board. You rather want to discuss what are we focusing on and also what do we don't do. Equally important, by the way, might be an opportunity, but maybe not as much as everything else we need to do. So it gives you really, it can drive a very insightful, transparent conversation in the boardroom if you have this data insights approach.
Right. And some of them can be quite not as technical as, I think a lot of the lagging indicators are from accountants. But like, for example, in our industry, to maybe betray one of our secret metrics. Like if you're ever interviewing a search consultant, one of the interesting metrics is just take their WhatsApp and, how many WhatsApps has been sent to a chair, vice chair, or head of a rumination committee. We directly tied to the financial performance of that consultant, I can guarantee you. So it's kind of a pre-success metric. But I don't know, maybe do you have any examples where you've really implemented this? Either of you? No? Or
I
you
can
don't want to
share
share
very
because it's
briefly.
confidentiality.
No, without naming names, but yeah, we just did this recently. So we started 2 years ago, and I mean, we came from a situation where there were numbers. We're not saying the management was not in blind flight. They had numbers, but it was really a lot, far too much, and it was kind of you could justify everything and nothing. So we stripped this down to 5 KPIs, really leading indicators that gave a good indication. Are we building a more profitable, a more margin strong business? Is our investment, which was mostly marketing dollars, is it yielding a return of investment? And if not, should we maybe stop what we're doing? Is our offering, which was a digital one, driving the interest and the purchases that we want to see, conversion rates? So it really helped to get clarity. That's what I would say. It helped really to link back to, let's say, be more intentionally in defining what are our strategic bets, where do we want to focus on to drive a more profitable business. And it also, I think, fostered a little bit a stronger partnership between the board and the management team. So I always say it's one team, one dream. Everybody has different roles, but at the end of the day, you have a shared interest, right? You want to build an even stronger, flowing business.
Yeah. What I would add is that, so because I come from private equity, this has been a core part of my job, defining the key KPIs that we monitor. It's not just in my role as a board member. So I've done this from the beginning of my career. Taking some board pack or a monthly reporting pack that is 30 pages and saying this is fine, but I need a 1-page or 2-page dashboard that covers these KPIs and gives me these 5 answers on updates on things is essential. You can't go, you can present whatever else you like, but you have to present this as well. I've done it multiple times. I think it's been, you do find resistance, but I think ultimately everyone sees the benefit. Any situation that I have in any way been part of, I think one that I can talk about just because it is something that was a publicly listed company, Panda, when I was at Savola. So Panda was undergoing a big transformation and turnaround because it had gone into losses, and that's, our CEO came in, I came in, it was time when we wanted to turn around Panda. And a big part of that, looking back, was, well, if we tracked these are 2 or 3 KPIs, we would have known a little bit earlier, right? Because you're growing overall and you're profitable and your profit is growing, but your store yields are coming down, eventually your like-for-likes are coming down, etc. So showing people, even taking his retrospect view and showing them that had you tracked this, you would have known 1 year before or 2 years before because it was already happening, is very convincing.
What were the ones that you, in hindsight, would have tracked more closely?
I think what wasn't being tracked as much were things like store yields, performance by format, like-for-like growth, not just overall revenue and profitability growth. Category growth, because for in the grocery sector, how you do on the fresh category is much more important than how you do overall, because you can buy a can of Coke everywhere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think when when we're looking at executives, that kind of cascades down to, if you're saying, for example, profitability per SKU, you want to know in your customer basket, how many SKUs are there, how many of those SKUs are in your higher profit range versus, lower profit range. And then, those CEOs translate that to your L&D department so that your front salespeople know, you know, what is your most profitable SKU? What are the items if a customer asks, you know, I need a phone charger, for example. Do you sell them the Apple phone, the car charger, or do you sell them the no-name brand Chinese one that has an 80% margin? But also, if you ask, you know, it's like a 5-second assessment. You know, you ask a lot of these executives, what's your most you know, what are your most profit? They don't know. So 100%, your frontline salespeople aren't going to be selling your most profitable items. So there you go. But that's just my cathartic rant. So I'll just move right along.
No, I think you're talking about the same things. It's knowing what KPIs matter and then just highlighting the boards. And once you can translate into action, right? I think that's the important part as a board member.
Yeah, that's it. Is you know, like, how do you make, so at one hand, you know, you can have Huda on your board and push the management team to do this dashboard, but then that's also kind of if the management team is smart, that's the chrysalis that they can then cascade that down to the front line, which is exciting. So what, as we kind of close here on the hour, and I know both of you our ladies are running massive businesses, so you have other things to get on to. So what's your advice for those board members out there who maybe aren't as KPI oriented, or maybe more from the gut type of people, fires of passion, courage of their convictions type people? They need to get a little bit more KPI focused. What should they do? What can they do to start?
Go ahead, Barbara, and I'll take it.
Pardon?
Are you asking me? I mean, do you want me to start? Okay, I'll start. So look, I think that let's not discount gut. I mean, that's not the purpose. Some people have good gut, and gut is, now I'm going to go back to my neuroscience. Gut is not something that is ethereal, right? It's usually a function of a lot of unconscious information and data and learnings translating itself in a faster way than your conscious brain can keep up with. So I would not discount gut, especially from coming from people with experience. That's not the objective. But I think most of the time people find that data and good gut don't fight with each other. There is an element of risk taking for future projects. There's an element of a bit of gambling, as Faris mentioned as well. But I think that you need a balance of things. I have never met a board member who said, no, I don't want to look at data. People are usually happy to see more data. I think the only other element is of conviction on data or importance of data is that you do have to, as you said, management, how it translates to the ground is very important. But how do you do that? You need to incentivize management, and to do it properly, you have to tie their incentives to quantitative, measurable KPIs.
Sure. Barbara?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. So first, I think, just to be super clear, right, when we talk data, we talk about the business. So I think that's maybe the first thing. If you come to, and all boards have, of course, data. So at least you look at the P&L and you have all this kind of reports. What I would advise is, as a first step, to ask management or work together with management regarding really what are the insights, the leading indicators that will very likely point us as an organization towards growth, towards profitability, towards more loyal customers, towards higher market share. So I think that would be the first one. And yeah, always helpful to say less is more. And then really just implementing it. I think you can start with really easily saying, okay, once a month, we want to talk about really the state of our customers. So how many are we winning? How many are we sticking? Is our churn going up and down? Why is it? What are they buying? So you can also kind of package it. Another opportunity would be you might, if you're running the board sessions very differently, but you feel, because you're getting, of course, more data, right? I mean, someone just mentioned it, right? Every company is a digital company or tech company. That's so much true. So you have all this information somewhere in the organization. You could also say, okay, we're implementing a dedicated committee, for example, who is preparing it. So one of the board members is taking the share, working together with just a few from the management team and helping to kind of incubate this, and then you integrate it back at a later time in the board. I think that could be another option. I think what is important that someone in the board, at least one, is kind of owning it. So my experiences with a highly effective board, ideally it is diverse in terms of experiences and background, ideally you do have some people who stand for something. Doesn't mean that they don't stand for anything else, but they kind of can take ownership, or they are the ones who do know that their mandate is to make progress in that area. So to bring someone in with that experience and backlog is, of course, or to appoint someone is certainly very helpful. I just want to say it is pure joy, because I think if you're doing it, I mean, of course, I come from companies whose DNA is that, you really understand your business better. And I think it can help so massively to keep people focused on the most important opportunities, knowing that we all have a sea of opportunity, right? Usually it's not, the challenge is not that there are no opportunities out. The challenge is there are so many that you can distract an organization so easily. So it can really help a lot to keep companies, organizations, teams, people focused on what matters more than other.
Great, thank you. Dr. Ashraf, I don't know if you had any question. We're just here on the hour, so we're just going to be closing. Do you have any last?
No, I mean, I'm mindful of the time, so that was very insightful for me, I have to say. One of the key conditions in order for all this to happen is for the board to take charge of the agenda of the meeting, because what we see in this part of the world is actually, it's mostly the management. The CEO is the one to set the agenda for the board. The other thing is for the board members to ask for the information, as Huda mentioned correctly. A lot of board members we deal with in board evaluations, they say, we don't have enough information. And the question always, why don't you ask for the information you want in the frequency you want, in the detail you want? So it is really the right of the board member to ask for information, but thank you so much for this very informative session. It's very educational for us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great. Yes, and we are going to have a live session on the 15th of November for those individuals who are at board or CEO level. We'll be happy to receive you for that. But I just want to thank both of you. Really awesome session, and kind of one of my favorite topics. So, you know, Huda, you mentioned that a lot of times the data is just too generic, and you get these anecdotal stories. Be careful for distractions and management teams that try to kind of flood you with so much data that you're really not focused on what the key leading indicators are. And you should also not take that pushback that, hey, we can't find that data. Yes, you can. And sometimes tech can be that answer to getting the insights that you need to track those in real time, and make sure you know the KPIs and lead indicators that you're doing for each session. And you know, I think Barbara echoed that with your data-driven profitability. You know, key things like lifetime value of your customer loyalty, return on marketing investment. These are all like good touch points for the health of your business, and make sure that you're linking your KPIs to your efficient execution and cascade that through the organization and bring it down. Less is more. I think you kind of continue to echo that. So down to 3 or 5 key leading indicators that are going to help you execute and make sure that strategy is moving forward. And you might want to consider making a subcommittee for this. If you don't really have a grasp on it, mark it as a priority, create a subcommittee at the board, and assign one board member to really take ownership of that. If Huda's on your board, you don't have to worry about who's going to take ownership, because I'm sure she'll take that board for you.
Did you just call me bossy?
Pardon?
Did you
No,
just call me
you're passionate.
bossy?
You're passionate about getting results. That's what we need in these board members. And the other, you really need to be on top of your data. And the best thing is, if you don't feel you are, Huda has also told us that a gut feeling is unconscious data tracking. So so you actually
Can be. From who? Depends on whose gut feeling.
That was one of my favorite parts. So it's like, hey, you know, you have the unconscious data tracking. It can be. And at the end of the day, I think the real theme was get on top of those lead indicators if you want to outperform the competition. And that's it. I mean, I could talk quite a bit more. I have a huge respect for both of you and want to thank you. I know how busy you are as well. And so thank you so much for joining the Board Leadership Forum. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Dr. Ashraf.
Great.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
so we will be having some more events, and of course, we didn't talk about it at all. But for those of you who are looking to get more board roles, Hawkamah is actually the gold standard leader in board certification process. It's a good idea to get certified, and then you start to understand, you know, how should these boards be structured? What committee should you have? You know, obviously, everyone, you know, you need to have an audit committee because that's kind of a legal thing. But, you know, how should you form these subcommittees? If you're a board member, how much should you be getting paid? You know, if you're on 3 subcommittees, should you be getting paid extra? How much should you get paid extra for something? These are things that we're going to be answering in our next session, which is, you know, the big money question: how much should board members get? How much should your board fees be? How much should your sitting fees be? What do you do with a board member who's underperforming? These are all questions that you're going to get the answer to in future sessions. And if you're interested in the board certification course, we do have an info session. Tariq, I don't know if you posted the link for that at all, or you'll post it now. So we'll post the link and we'll send you that in a follow-up email and on WhatsApp. Hopefully you don't report us to the DNCR list, because that's a new law in the UAE. If you send someone a message and they don't like it, you get fined 75,000 dirhams apparently. But we will assume that if you are registered for this event, that you want to learn more about how you can develop your board skills, what kind of certification you are. And actually, Dr. Ashraf does that also for the entire company. So if you want to bring your whole board together, you want to do a training. He's really done it for some of the biggest companies, but he's told me that I'm not allowed to mention his clients publicly, but they are big, really big names, kind of the biggest of the big people. Some of those mobile numbers, hopefully he'll be passing on to me, but that's another story. Just joking. But really, it's a top-notch team, really high. The Hawkamah Institute team, it's created under the auspices of His Royal Highness Ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed. It's owned by the DIFC and DFSA. So really, it is the top contender for this kind of training and development. And of course, if you need a board member, if you want a tech guru on your board, don't hesitate to call the Phillips Group. We'd love to help you out with that. And even if you just want to have a chat, you know, we're always here, happy to speak with you and see whatever issues you're having with the board. A lot of you guys out there have known me for 10, 15 years now. I'm getting older, fatter, got the salt and pepper in the beard, but it is nice to see familiar faces. I didn't have time to reach out to everybody, but really had a nice international people. I think Dieter's in Thailand. So to give you an idea, we really have all the way from Asia right across to US and Canada and everything in between. So thanks again. And thank you, Dr. Ashraf, for adding a little class and elegance to our session.
Thank you.
And so that's it. Farewell, and we'll follow up with you. Don't hesitate. I think, Tariq, you passed the links on. If you want to get any more information about that, we'll be in touch with you. Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Salama.